1954. A sweltering Saturday afternoon in June, somewhere in rural Kentucky. An 11-year-old boy sits alone on a flat rock behind his house. His shirt is muddy, his canvas sneakers are soaked from the creek, and he has an open pocket knife in his lap. He is whittling a green willow stick, entirely lost in his own mind. His parents haven't seen him in 4 hours. And neither of them is worried. They won't be worried until the dinner bell rings at 6. The boy isn't just killing time. He is doing the most critical work of a mid-century childhood, being entirely unsupervised in a physical world, solving a problem with nothing but a tool and his own hands. Today, we have traded physical autonomy for digital dependence. We have raised a generation of boys on screens, and the cost of that trade is the men they become. The ordinary American boyhood of the 1950s was a masterclass in self-reliance, producing men who could handle hardship without breaking. Before we begin our countdown, hit that subscribe button to help us rescue these memories. Because today, we are uncovering 5 forgotten skills every 1950s boy mastered that most modern men can't do to save their lives. Putting an edge on steel was an absolute requirement. By age 9, a 1950s boy didn't just own a pocket knife, he was responsible for maintaining it. On a quiet Saturday morning at the kitchen table, his father would hand him an Arkansas stone and 3 drops of mineral oil. 20 strokes on one side, 20 on the other, maintaining a perfect 20-degree angle by pure muscle memory. He learned to test the blade by gently shaving the hair off the back of his own forearm. He was taught a fundamental truth. A dull knife is infinitely more dangerous than a sharp one, because a dull knife slips, but a sharp blade obeys. Today, the ancient art of tool maintenance is virtually extinct. Most modern men have a drawer full of kitchen knives too dull to slice a tomato, and their pocket knives, if they even carry one, are outsourced to factory edges they have no idea how to fix. When a man loses the ability to sharpen his own tools, he outsources his readiness for the world. Rope work was equally vital. A knot is mankind's oldest tool, older than the wheel, older than fire. By the time he turned 10, a mid-century boy knew 6 knots cold: the bowline, the square knot, 2 half hitches, the clove hitch, the sheet bend, and the tautline hitch. He didn't learn them from a screen, he learned them from his grandfather on a porch, practicing with 2 pieces of scrap rope until he could tie them backward, with one hand in pitch darkness. Knowing these knots gave a boy physical sovereignty. He could lash a wooden raft together, tie down a heavy load on the back of a pickup, or secure a canvas tarp before a summer storm. The modern boy can navigate an app, but he cannot tie a knot that will hold his own weight. The day eventually comes in every man's life when a proper knot is the only thing standing between a minor inconvenience and an absolute disaster. The 1950s boy was ready for that day at 10 years old. The modern man is 40, standing on the side of the road calling roadside assistance because he doesn't know how to secure a Christmas tree to the roof of his Subaru. Fire building in the 1950s wasn't a recreational camping hobby, it was an exercise in discipline. A boy was taught the strict hierarchy of energy: tinder, kindling, small fuel, large fuel, laid meticulously in a teepee or log cabin structure. The rule was simple: you got 1 wooden match. If the wind caught it, or if your structure suffocated the flame, you didn't get a second match. You tore it all down, cleared the damp ground, and rebuilt it from scratch. This taught a boy the physics of patience. He learned how air feeds a flame, why you start small before you go big, and why piling too much heavy weight too early destroys the spark. These weren't just survival skills, they were metaphors for every productive thing a man would ever build in his life: a business, a marriage, a career. The 1950s boy internalized that structure at 9 with a handful of birch bark. The modern boy has no equivalent lesson. He turns a knob on a plastic lighter or hits a button on a gas grill, completely disconnected from the raw elements of survival. A 1950s boy also possessed an internal compass, what we call spatial sovereignty. He kept a map of his county, his town, and his state entirely inside his own head. He knew north from south by the position of the noon sun, and east from west by where it sank into the treeline. He could be dropped on his bicycle 10 miles from home in an unfamiliar territory and navigate his way back by reading the terrain and tracing the sun. We have systematically destroyed this ancient cognitive trait. The modern man increasingly doesn't know where he is in the physical world. He only knows what his screen tells him to do. He turns left because a voice commands it. When the cellular network drops or the battery dies, he is utterly helpless in his own city. We have outsourced the basic human necessity of navigation to a corporation that tracks our every step. The 1950s boy bought his paper map at the gas station for $2, and the gas station didn't care where he went with it. That distinction is heavier than it sounds. Long before he was legally old enough to sit behind the wheel of a car, a mid-century boy was expected to know how to maintain it, specifically changing a flat tire. By age 12, mastering the star pattern was an entry-level requirement of manhood. He knew how to safely position a mechanical jack, break the resistance on frozen lug nuts, swap the spare, and most importantly, tighten the lugs in a star pattern so the wheel sat perfectly flush against the axle. He performed this task in the dirt, in the gravel, or in the pouring rain. It was a 15-minute mechanical chore that anchored a boy's confidence in his own capability. Today, college-educated, professionally successful grown men will sit helplessly on the shoulder of an interstate for 2 hours in a light drizzle, waiting for a tow truck to swap a spare tire. The mechanical competence that took 15 minutes to learn has been entirely erased from the male lineage in less than 2 generations. And with it, we lost the quiet dignity of solving our own physical breakdowns. None of these 5 skills required a credential, a coach, an app, or a credit card. They were passed down for free in dusty garages and on front porches by men who understood that a boy's greatest asset is his utility to the people around him. The boys of the 1950s are now in their 70s and 80s. They are the last generation of Americans raised with this exact brand of rugged competence. Watch them closely. They are quieter than us, more useful in a crisis, and entirely at peace with hardship. They knew what we forgot. If you want to help us preserve these American archives, hit that subscribe button right now. And tell me down in the comments, which of these 5 skills did your father or grandfather hand down to you? Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next chapter of the American Forgotten Era.